Hello everyone. This lecture is on basics of computer organization. The computer organization is one of the fundamental subjects that is accepted across various engineering streams, which deals mainly with the computer system, its internal structures, programming and operations. In module 1 of computer organization, we will be discussing about the basics of computer along with machine instructions and programming. We will be referring the computer organization textbook by Karl Hamacher. Start with, we will discuss about the basic structure of computers, where we will be discussing about the different types of computer along with the functional units such as input unit, memory unit, arithmetic and logic unit, output unit and the control unit. We are very much familiar with the word computer. What exactly this computer means? It consists of the electronic components such as resistors, capacitors and various ICs that are customized in a single PCB. It has a processor that performs the various calculations. It accepts the various inputs from humans, processes it, performs a particular task and sends the output. These computers are classified based on the size, cost, computational power and the intended use, or where exactly these computers are used. Many types of computers exist. The most common computer is the personal computer, which has found wide uses, and it is most common form of desktop computer as well. The size of the computer is too large. As compared to the notebook computers are very compact version of the desktop computers. The difference between the personal computer and the notebook computer is the compactness of the notebook computer. Whereas the workstations, however, it is similar to the personal computers or the desktop computers. The only way it outstands from other two is the graphical resolution it supports. However, it is used in industrial applications which demands a high graphical resolutions. It is built for that particular purpose. The other two categories in case of computer types are the enterprise systems and the supercomputers. The enterprise systems are the ones which has high computing capability, which are used for the business data processing, and it also behaves as a server or the lower end server. It can be used where the huge data transfer takes place. Whereas in case of supercomputers, it is customized or it is designed to perform a large scale numerical calculations. And these type of supercomputers are used in weather forecasting or weather monitoring stations, aircraft designs, defense equipments, or the applications which require higher data calculations along with the numerical calculations. In such cases, the supercomputers can be used. A computer system consists of 5 various units that performs a particular task, such as input unit, memory unit, arithmetic and logic unit, output unit and the control unit. So this input unit is a interface between a system and the external world. If a person wants to add two numbers, he has to feed a number through various input devices such as a keyboard. So this input, what is received from the keyboard, will not be received as a number. Instead, it will be a coded information. It will be converted into a binary number. This coded information will be stored in a memory unit. So whatever data, whatever the number that is fed through the input unit will be converted into a binary form and it will be stored in a memory unit. There are different types of memory units, and this memory unit, the data that is present in the memory unit will be transferred or used for further applications. The arithmetic and logic unit is the heart of any computing system. This arithmetic and logic unit performs the arithmetic as well as the logical operations. However, there are various types of instructions that are required to perform a particular task. In the following example, in the example of addition of two numbers, the two numbers are fed into a processor or into a memory unit through the input unit, and this number that is present in the input in the memory unit will be forwarded to the arithmetic unit. The arithmetic unit performs the process of addition and the result is stored back in the memory unit. Now, if a user want to see the output, then there is a separate unit to display it or to output the result. For example, if we want to display the result of the addition in a display unit, then the display unit, your screen, computer screen, will behave as an output unit. So the data that is present in the memory, the result that is present in the memory will be converted into a form that can display it in the display unit. So however, what is the functionality of this control unit? We have already discussed the input unit, memory unit, arithmetic and logic unit, as well as the output unit. So what is the purpose of the control unit? So I said that the control unit, I said that the arithmetic and logic unit has to perform the addition. For example, the addition in our case. So who will tell the arithmetic and logic unit to perform the add operation? It is nothing but the control unit. The control unit is the one which controls or which gives the command to the arithmetic and logic unit, or for that matter all these units, to perform their particular task. The control unit controls or the masters the rest of the 4 units. Figure shows the functional block diagram of a computer system which has the input, output, memory, arithmetic and logic unit and the control unit. However, in the previous slide we had discussed about the input, output, memory, arithmetic and the control unit in a simpler way. Now, I said in the previous slide as well that these control units will perform a task of giving commands to the various other units. Now these commands are nothing but the instructions that are written in a proper flow. This set of instruction is called as a program. The program is nothing but the set of instructions. If you want to perform any task, for example the same addition process, then in order to add two numbers you need to write a set of instructions to add two numbers. So these instructions are present in a memory. So the memory is classified into two types basically, that is the data memory and the program memory. The data memory holds the data in the sense, see for example if you want to add two numbers, you will be entering the two numbers in the input unit, that is using the keyboard. For example, if you want to add two numbers 5 and 4, these 5 and 4 that are entered in a keyboard will be converted into a binary number and will be stored in a memory. the number that is stored, or the coded binary coded number that is entered or that is stored in the memory is the data. Now what is the code memory consists of? So now in order to perform the addition, internally a processor has to perform some task. It may be with respect to a hardware or with respect to a software. There is a set of instructions, or the sequential flow of data has to be taking place. This is done through a set of instructions. These instructions consist of opcode and operand. Now what is this opcode and operand that we will look into later when we discuss about the programming part. So this helps us to understand the functionality of computer system in a more better way. Now this program, what I said, will be stored in the memory, that is code memory. There is a operation, for example, there is a fetch, decode and execution. These are the pipelining process. These are the three steps of execution, the basic steps of execution of any instruction. Fetch the code that is present in the memory from the code memory, decode it. For example, if the instruction is add, your computer or the processor or the arithmetic logic unit will not understand what is add, in the sense add. It will not understand what is add. Add is just a name that makes a user to understand, but the computer will not understand what that add means. There is a corresponding binary equivalent for that add operation, that is called operand or opcode. So whenever a control unit or the arithmetic and logic unit comes across a particular opcode, it understands that it has to perform addition. On what number it has to perform addition? That is the operand. So this operand will be present in the data memory. It fetches those two numbers in the form of operands and performs the addition based on the code present in the code memory, and then it restores the result back in the memory. The control unit monitors all these operations so that there is no mismatch of the data, or it carries out all these operations in a smooth way internal to the hardware. Further, we will move on to the memory unit. The memory unit is used to store the programs and data. In case of computers, there are two classes of storage called primary and secondary. The primary, which is RAM, and secondary storage devices. The memory is built up by a small semiconductor storage cells which has capacity to store 1 bit of information. So these semiconductor storage cells are grouped together to form a word. The number of bits in each word is referred to as the word length of a computer, which comes with 16, 32-bit and the 64-bit computer, which also specifies the performance capacity of a device. So each word or the group of semiconductor storage cells will have one distinct address. So this word will have a unique address which is represented in a binary form. If a processor want to retrieve the data that is stored in any memory location, then it has to access it by specifying the address. The control unit will send the command to the processor by specifying the address of the location where the data is present. However, there are large number of data which are very less frequently used in any of the computers. So in order to store such infrequently used data, we have a secondary memory storage in the form of magnetic disk, tapes and optical disk, that is CD-ROMs, so that the expensive RAM can be used less, so by thereby reducing the cost of the entire system. In this slide we will discuss about the random access memory. We know that from our previous discussion that all the instructions and the data will reside in the memory. These instructions and the data that are present in the memory can be read and written, or the movement of the data that is stored in the memory are moved to and from the memory under the supervision of or under the control of the processor, particularly the control unit. It is necessary for any system or a efficient system to access these data or the instructions in a less span of time or as quick as possible. A memory in which a location can be accessed in short and fixed amount of time after specifying its address is called the random access memory. In case of random access memory, irrespective of the location, the timing to access the data is fixed. The time required to access the one word in case of random access memory is called the memory access time, which is fixed and which may range from few nanoseconds to 100 nanoseconds. So based on this access time or the size, we have two categories of random access memory in case of the computer system. A RAM with small size and a very fast access is the cache memory. The cache memory is usually embedded or it is present within the integrated chip to achieve the high performance. Whereas we have a largest in size and slowest in the access speed, that is the main memory. Both are very necessary in terms of the performance of a device. By this we will come to an end of the lecture 1. where we had discussed about the various functional blocks, computer types, and we had discussed about the memory as well. Thank you.